From sweet potatoes to mead. I'm Phil. This is Phil with Facts, and today we are making sweet potato gingerbread mead. For this recipe, you're going to need, and for starters, we're going to need a bunch of sweet potatoes. How much sweet potatoes? 5 pounds. We're going to need to peel them, cut them up, put them in a pot, and boil them. Now, we're doing this to extract all the starches and flavors from the sweet potatoes. However, none of these are going to end up in our final fermentation. We just need the liquid. So before you start this recipe, realize you're going to have about 5 pounds of smashed sweet potatoes that are perfect for eating. If you hate sweet potatoes, you might want to sub this out for water or some other kind of juice. Now to start, we're going to peel and then cut up a sweet potato. Now you don't have to worry about the accuracy of the cuts too much. This one comes out so they'll cook relatively quickly. About there. Now, wash, rinse, and repeat, and get the rest of these sweet potatoes into your pot. Getting close. Last one. Alright, so 5 pounds of sweet potatoes might seem like a lot. And now what I'm going to do is cover it with water. I want to use a little over a gallon. But really, all you want to do is cover them with the liquid so that as they boil, it extracts as much of that sweet potato out as it possibly can. You also want to have enough liquid here to make the must for the actual one. So a little over a gallon. Not by much though. Now, bring it to a boil. Let it go for about 20 minutes. Once they are soft, like mashed potato texture, they're done. You can then remove the sweet potatoes from the liquid, and we can go on to the next step. Okay, so we took our sweet potatoes, fully boiled, ready to go, perfect texture. So now what we want to do is separate the sweet potatoes from the actual liquid itself. Carefully, it's hot. So yeah, you want to separate as much of the sweet potato from the liquid as possible, strain it out. If you leave a little bit of sweet potato in the water, not the end of the world, it will ferment out later. However, this is very hot right now. Way too hot to ferment in. I'm barely able to even touch the handles at this point. I'm going to put this to the side and let it cool down. We're targeting roughly 110 degrees, or at least a temperature where it won't kill the yeast and or the enzymes we're putting in to do the rest of the process. If we put everything in right now, nothing would happen the way we wanted it to, and we wouldn't get the final result we're looking for. So, if you have room in your fridge, let it cool in your fridge. If you want to put some ice in your sink, fill it with some water and let it cool down that way. Whatever your comfort level is. Just let this cool down. Let these cool down before you cover them up, because again, they're delicious and we are going to eat them later. But while we wait for that, we can start assembling the rest of the mead. For assembly, you should use a nice, large, wide-mouth fermenter, such as this. I love this style. I use them quite often, especially to start a primary fermentation with a lot of things in it. I could easily get inside here. I could easily put whatever I need in here. And when it comes to cleanup, a lot easier. Trust me. If you want to start with a bucket, you could definitely start with like a 2-gallon bucket. It's not going to go all the way to the top, more than likely not. But really, it's on you and the equipment you have. If you happen to have the room in your brewery for this, I recommend them. They are awesome. I'll put a link in the description for the exact one I use. I'm sure you've seen them somewhere before. While we wait for the liquid to cool, we're going to add the rest of our ingredients, mostly. We're going to start with about 8 ounces of raisins. Now, these are not for nutrients in any way, shape, or form. These are actually for flavoring. It's going to give you that nice, almost earthy, gingerbready like undertone. Without them, I feel like you won't get the same result. Ginger, obviously, gingerbread makes sense. Now, I put a lot of thought into this. Can you use fresh? You can. Can you use powdered? Also, you can, but they're going to give you slightly different results. I'm using dried candied ginger for this recipe, and for a reason. I wanted dried ginger because it's going to give you a little bit more of a cooked dessert type ginger flavor in the end result. The one thing to be mindful of is they are coated in sugar. Now that sugar will go into the gravity of our must, will be part of the reading, and the yeast will eat it. So there's really nothing to worry about with it. And that goes right in. 1 banana, wash it because you're going to use the peel and all. Just cut it into relatively large chunks. You can take this little end cap off if you want. The spices, I'm using 3 whole cinnamon sticks and 2 cloves. That might not seem like a lot, but this is probably going to go for a couple weeks. And the whole time, that spice is going to be steeping and extracting all that flavor. That's a while to have that spice in. Now, you could put a little bit more in or put it in the bag and pull it out later. This way, I don't have to worry about it again. It's just going to stay in the brew the entirety of primary. I have a little yeast nutrients. To my package instructions, I recommend you do the same. And then I have 2 powders in here. It's a little pectic enzyme and a little analase enzyme. The pectic enzyme is going to help get all those pectins and help them ferment better. More solid. The analase is going to convert a lot of the starches in the sweet potato into fermentable sugar. This way our fermentation can go fully dry and we can get the most out of the brew. It's important, and it's a good idea to know what you're putting in and why you're putting it in. These enzymes aren't going to hurt you in any way, shape, or form, but they are going to do something specific to different ingredients in here and help them along the way. The next thing I want to add is honey. Now, there's a lot of sugar in here already, but 51% of that sugar needs to be honey for it to be a mead. So we're going to go with 2 pounds. And as I always say, honey does not pour nicely. And when you get to a certain point of your jar, you can take a little bit of water, pour it right on in, about halfway. Give it a good shake and get all the honey out. You'll be doing a disservice to your brew more by not getting all the honey you can out of this than you will be by adding a little bit of water to it at this stage. There we go. The only thing I wouldn't add right now is your yeast. And here's why. There's a lot of sugar in here. That yeast will start to activate once it is in a liquid with sugar. Which means, if it takes another 20 minutes for my sweet potato base to cool down, I might not get an accurate gravity reading. So I'm not going to really know what I'm starting with, and I'm not going to really know what I'm ending with. It just makes it a little bit more complicated. So, since I am taking a gravity reading, I'm just going to wait a minute. I don't think it's a big deal. This should be fine. If you are nervous about leaving this by itself, you can just put the lid and the airlock on now. You're not going to really see any activity or anything like that. This is just, I'm not even really screwing this on all the way. It's just to keep air and anything you don't want from getting into your brew. I mean, everything's been sanitized. We have full control of our situation at the moment. Why risk it? At this stage, I'm just going to clean up, put this to the side, and wait for the sweet potato base to cool down. Quick side note that I think I forgot to mention. Now, you saw I added a banana to this brew, but I did not add any wine tannin or any tea or anything like that. The banana is going to give it body. That's the whole reason I put a banana in this brew. I go for a slightly green still, not that ripe banana, because I'm not so worried about the sugars in it. You can use a fully ripe banana if that's all you have. The riper the banana, the more sugars and the more flavor it will impart. This way, I'm going to get a nice amount of body and some extra something to this brew that might not be there if you choose not to add. And it's really easy. I use skin and all, the entire banana right in. Alright, so it's finally at a reasonable temperature. It's reading around 120. By the time I mix everything, take a reading, all of that, it should be just where it needs to be. So I'm no longer nervous of it harming any of the stuff that's in the brew. We're going to take the lid off. Throw this right back into the sanitizer. Smells really good. It actually smells like a banana-y gingerbread already. So, I'm excited. We are carefully going to pour this in. And once everything's in, you want to mix. And it's really not that hot anymore. Like, it's 100% handleable. The little bit of heat that's still left is really going to help mix this honey up much quicker. Plus all those other odds and ends, everything in there, really just makes this a much easier process. If you've ever mixed honey into a cold liquid, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It really does smell incredible. Like baked goods around the holiday. So, I mean, perfect. Just from an introduction point, I think we nailed it. I am so excited to see how this one comes out. Next thing we're going to do is take a reading, see where we're at. So we're at a 1.080, which is a good respectable start for this mead. I'm happy with that. As the enzymes do their work, it might actually extract a little bit more and end up with a little bit more alcohol. However, we won't know about that alcohol, so I don't usually talk about it. But I do know that I want to keep it on the lower side so that I don't accidentally overpower the yeast with how much they can do. And of course, today's yeast of choice. Today we're using Coquille de Blanc, which is a Red Star yeast. It's actually the green pack. And it's kind of there to help get some of those more fruity esters out of the little bit of fruit we have in here. This is going to balance the spice. In case I forgot to mention, we're technically making a metheglin today, which is a spiced mead. So we want to have a very pungent, spicy flavor. However, I have clove, I have cinnamon, I have ginger. That could end up overtaking it. This way I can get some esters from the fruit, maybe from the sweet potatoes, and help give it a nice baked good type flavor. That's what the goal is, and I think we're on the right track. Let's add our yeast, pitch it right in. One more real good stir. And now this is going to go on my shelf of fermentation. And we're going to keep an eye on it until it's completely fermented through. At which point we'll take our next set of readings, take a taste, and go from there. It's also important to leave a label on everything you brew. Yes, you might think, oh, I'll remember what's in that brew, or I'll remember that one number. But surprisingly enough, in 2 weeks from now, you're probably going to forget some of the details. I write every recipe down in a little notepad before I even start doing anything, so I always know the recipes. The things you want to keep in mind of are like the gravity, the date. So I'm going to put the name of the brew, today's date, and then the starting gravity, which was a 1.080. I already have a list of everything in here, so don't have to worry about that. No, but I do want to be mindful that there is a gravity to this and a date to it that I'm going to need. That information is critical when you go into the next step. Was it 2 weeks? Was it 3 weeks? Was it only 5 days, but they've been the longest 5 days of your life, and life's been overwhelming, and you just can't remember when you started something? Or maybe you have several brews that you've started back to back, different days, but maybe only a couple days apart. Did I start that one mead first, or did I start that one wine first? I know it seems silly to some point, but these are real things that can happen and do happen. Anyway, if you like this recipe and want to see where we take it, please like, subscribe, react some way to the video so that YouTube will notify you when the next part is out. You want to see some other fun experiments? I've made tons. Please check out any of those videos. Please leave comments. Give me any questions, comments, concerns. Let me know what you want to see, what you've liked, things that you want to try. I'm interested in all of this stuff, and I will respond right away. Until next time, I'm Phil. This is Filled with Facts, and thank you for watching.